Welcome, dear students of MB524, 824. In this video, I will briefly explain to you the final project and how it relates and comes together with the ethnographic interviews and the participant observations. This class has three different purposes. One is to introduce an epistemic that is different, a new lens to read the Bible, a new way to understand it, taking into consideration cultural matters. That's the first objective. The second objective is to teach students basic ethnographic skills. The third objective is the same as the second, at a further level, at a more advanced level. The learning of ethnographic skills and tools for those that are in CMR, for those who are pursuing doctoral programs or a master's in theology and want to have ethnographic studies for future professional or research basis. It is enough if you just want to pass the class to have the minimum skills. The burden that you will have is that you will have to make a distinction between what do you want to study and what do you not want to study. It will be up to the student to decide how they divide themselves between the second group and the third group. Now, this page that we're looking at presents the ethnographic skills and tools as reflected in the final paper that all students will have to do. And the first element in the rubric for which you will be graded is self-awareness for the contextualizing process. Students discusses in detail analyzing both core beliefs and the origins of the core beliefs, and discussions include self-doubt and or alternative views. In this class, the epistemic approach demands from you to see yourself seeing the research, be it biblical or whichever other research you are pursuing. In many classes, you are not required to examine yourself. In fact, you are not expected to talk in the first person, to write in the first person. In this class, you are expected to write in the first person, and you are expected to see the vulnerability of your own positions. The second part or skill that the rubric for the final paper will be testing, it has to do with one thesis throughout the whole paper. The capacity to write just one thesis. The student introduces her or his thesis on the introduction of the paper. Then the student follows from one sentence to the next and from one paragraph to the next the thesis development, including arguments discovered in favor and against the proposed thesis. The student also follows the thesis building from one section of the paper to the next, ending with the conclusion on that thesis. Now, there are some students that will have a very hard time with this. It is okay for you instead to write a report. And then you would not have a thesis. You will be reporting what you learn. The difference will be that those that do a report will more likely than not receive no more than a B+ for the final paper. You may still earn an A for the whole class because you do excellent in other parts. But for the paper, the best you can do if you're doing a report would be a B+ for a good report. If you want an A or an A-, you have to aim at driving a thesis throughout the whole paper. I am always available, one phone call away, and we can talk about how to do this. The third element of the grading for the rubric, embracing contradictions within alternative evangelical perspectives, competencies, and skills. What does that mean? It means that you will not assume that your theological position is a unique and universal and the only one. You will assume, on the contrary, that different people will understand the same truth from different perspectives, just like there are 4 Gospels that tell 4 different versions of the life of Jesus and the ministry and the impact of the life of Jesus. Most people are not aware of this and pretend that they have discovered the one and only. In their minds, there's no distinction between the Gospels of John and Luke. They don't see the distinctions because they don't want to see the distinctions. Because they believe that there's only one perspective. And that's okay to believe that. There's no problem with that. But if you are writing this paper aiming for an A, you need to be able to see the distinction and reflect it. The 4th one is a missiological and theological perspectives, explanation of issues pertaining to evangelical, missiological, and theological perspectives were presented. Well, this class is part of CMR, is part of the behavioral sciences that used to be related to the School of Intercultural Study, but now is part of the School of Mission and Theology. So the emphasis in this class is not on exegesis, although there could be exegesis of a text. The emphasis is on the process of thinking about theology, why you think the way you think. More will be understood as we take the class. Then you will have sections 5, 6, and 7 are the same, and they are all related to the introduction, to the different sections, and to the conclusion. Let me read the conclusion. They are all the same, but to the different sections of the paper. The student concluded her or his thesis on the conclusion of the paper, writing the conclusion following from one sentence to the next, and from one paragraph to the next, the thesis development, including arguments discovered in favor and against the proposed thesis. If you have no idea what we are talking about, you're able to spend time with the TA or the instructor in training, if the quarter has, I have the privilege of having one, and you can discuss it with this person, the instructor in training or TA, or with me, or with both. We are available, but you have to search. You have to look for help. Begin early to understand what you want to do. Everything is related to this paper. Now I want you to become aware of acquainted with the ethnographic skills and tools. This is becoming acquainted. In this class, there's no memorization needed. The quizzes on Barrett, you can have the book open. And the other quizzes, the same. I am here teaching you a way of thinking, not a series of facts, although there will be many facts. And I will have a video later here that will explain the second part. So I will stop here now. Blessings. Remember, I am always one phone call away.